Hello everyone, and welcome back to Complete and Total Random. Today we're going to be going over 5 vehicles that I would really like to see in War Thunder. We will start with the KV-8. The KV-8 is a interesting modification on the KV-1 and KV-1S tanks. What was done was the coaxial mounted 7.62mm DT machine gun was removed and then replaced with a coaxial mounted flamethrower. And then, because of the size of the flamethrower, the main cannon, the 76mm L11 and the 76mm ZIS-5 cannons were both replaced from the KVs and swapped out with a 45mm 20K cannon. This is the same cannon that is found on the BT-5 and T-26 tanks. It's not that much of a downgrade, but it is definitely a downgrade of a cannon, but it gives the vehicles the ability to have a flamethrower in them, and I think that'll be quite an interesting addition. I would like to see that in game, maybe folded with the KV-1 L11 and KV-2, as I think it would be nice to get some tech tree flamethrower vehicles, since we don't have any flamethrowers and tech tree vehicles yet, just one event and one premium vehicle. I think it would be a good BR around 3.3 for the KV-1 variant, and then maybe 3.7, then 3.3 for the KV-1S variant. Now, there is 3 variants of the KV-8 we can get. The KV-8 is the KV-1 L11 that has been swapped to have the 45mm 20K cannon and the coaxial flamethrower. The KV-1 or the KV-8S is a KV-1S that has had the same modifications done to it. And then there's 2 prototypes. I've been having trouble trying to figure out exactly which hull they are on, but I believe it's the KV-1S, and this is the KV-8M. And this not only has the same modifications done to the turret as the other 2, having the flamethrower and 45mm cannon, it also has a hull-mounted flamethrower, replacing the hull-mounted machine gun. Now, looking at the images on screen, you may be able to see that the cannons look like normal KV-1 76mm cannons. This is because they have sleeves around the 45mm barrels to give the impression that they have the same gun in them as their regular counterparts to help disguise them. Yeah, I do think this would be a great addition to the game. And now let's move on to the next vehicle. The next vehicle I would love to see in War Thunder is the Panzerkampfwagen II Offs-J, otherwise known as the Panzer II-J. This is the same tank as the Panzer IIs we have in game, except it has been up-armored frontally to 80mm and 50mm on the sides, making this tank a lot thicker armored and allowing it to withstand enemy anti-tank fire. It also retains its 2cm autocannon, the 20mm KWK-30 cannon, so it'll still have the same firepower but have a tremendous amount of increased armor, nearly increased by 4 times all around. It's a very short-lived vehicle. The original 100 vehicles were cancelled, mainly due to the fact it appears that its cannon just was not good enough at dealing with enemy tanks. I don't really know which BR it should be at. It should definitely be way higher than 1.3, but I'm not really sure, just because that autocannon is very, very weak, so maybe a 2.0. It's kind of hard to tell. maybe a 1.7, but I think it would be a great addition to the game. I think it would be a very enjoyable tank. The next vehicle I would love to see added to War Thunder is the Ram 1 tank. We currently have, in-game, we have the Ram 2. It's in the American tech tree and is called the M4A5 for some reason. We have the Ram 2 with the 57mm, the short barrel 57. The main difference between the Ram 1 and the Ram 2 is the cannon. Instead of having the 57mm 6-pounder, it sports the same 40mm quickfire 2-pounder that is seen on tanks like the Matilda 3. I think this will be a really fun tank. It'd be nice to kind of get a slightly lower BR Ram tank. I do also think at some point we should get the Ram 2 late, the one that is, but I'll probably go over that one in a separate video. But yeah, so on to the next tank. The next tank I would love to see in the game, I'll go a bit more in depth with this one, as it's not just a modification or variant of an already existing vehicle in game, is the TOG 1. The TOG 1 is a super heavy tank prototype from 1940, weighing in at a breathtaking 80 tons, being 10 meters long. It was designed to be able to basically survive 47mm armor-piercing shells and 105mm field guns and howitzers from 90 meters away. The chassis of the tank was built and tested with a Matilda 2 turret and 2-pounder gun on top, as well as the same 75mm SA-35 cannon and mount that is on the B1 BIS. This tank was built and designed by the Old Gang, who was the team originally responsible for making Little Willie and the Mark series of tanks. The TOG 1 was designed to have it's hull-mounted 75 and the 2-pounder that it was tested with in its turret, as well as having 2 sponson-mounted quickfire ordnance 40mm cannons, the 2-pounders, in lateral sponsons on the sides of the tank, in a similar vein to the old Mark V series of tanks, as you can see here. Though these sponsons were never completed, and all that was completed of the tank is what you see in this photograph. It was trialed. It was found to be able to drive and turn very well. Its speed was relocated to 14 kilometers an hour, making it extremely slow. The TOG 1 was delivered in October of 1940 and then was succeeded by the TOG 2, which influenced the Churchill prototypes. And then in 1943, the drive system of the TOG 1, which was an electric drive, was replaced with a hydraulic drive system. And the TOG 1 was renamed the TOG 1A. After tests, the prototype was sent to Chobham. But no one knows what happened to the TOG 1. There were 2 prototypes made. And yeah, nobody knows what happened to them. But I do think it would be a great addition. Though obviously the slight problem you can probably see is the giant gaping hole in the side of the TOG 1 as it is right now, or was at the time of this picture. This is the same issue that plagues the TOG 2, as since it never had its sponsons built, there was never anything placed there, so there's these big gaps. What I think they should do about that is the same thing they did with the TOG 1 in game, is essentially just put a metal sheet over there. I know it's not completely historic, but I think it would allow us to have this quite interesting vehicle in game. And the other thing I could see them maybe doing, if they did introduce, like bring it into the game, is doing maybe something similar to the TOG 2 Great War pattern, which is a historical modification to kind of show what the TOG 2's was kind of intended to be, having its side sponsons machine guns mounted, as well as its smoke cannon mounted in the hull. Though in real life, those were never fitted to the TOG 2. So obviously the modification itself is completely fictional. And that is why I think if they did make add the TOG 1 to the game, they could potentially add something like a TOG 1 Great War pattern modification and allow it to have its two sponson mounted quickfire 40 mils. I think this will be a very interesting vehicle. I do think that if they did add it, they probably wouldn't add the sponsons, as they are completely ahistorical, and they would be kind of awkward and wonky to use anyways, not necessarily being very useful. Now, lastly, the final vehicle that I want added to War Thunder, as far as this video is concerned at least, I have dozens more that I'd love to share with you guys, is the AM40P. Now, as you can see, this design shares a striking resemblance to the Panhard EBR. In fact, it's kind of where a lot of the Panhard EBR's design originates, coming from the obviously oscillating turret, as well as the 4 normal road wheels, as well as the 4 additional droppable steel wheels to increase cross-country performance. This is quite an interesting vehicle, though. Unlike the Panhard EBR, this vehicle is extremely well armored, having 60 millimeters of armor all around, making this vehicle extremely resistant to anti-tank fire of the time. It also is in a weird situation because of this, because it mounts the 25mm SA-35 cannon that we have in-game on tanks like the AMD-35 and the AMR-35, making it a half-decent anti-tank weapon, and was able to reach impressive speeds of 80 kilometers an hour on road, especially given its armor. This was a very small vehicle. To keep the weight down and to keep the speed, the vehicle only has 2 crew members, a driver and a gunner / commander who operates the turret, making this tank extremely small, only having a weight of 9 tons, which allows its 85 horsepower engine to propel it up to speeds of 80 kilometers an hour, which is quite interesting, quite impressive for the time, the amount of armor and the amount of speed that they could get. It was designed and tested in between 1938 to 1940. Only one prototype was built, very successful in trials. It was planned to replace the Panhard's 178. However, due to the fall of France, the plans were cancelled, and the prototype was shipped to Morocco, and kind of like the TOG 1, nobody seems to know what happened to it. My guess would be that it was probably scrapped and used for steel for making other vehicles. But as far as we know, nobody knows exactly what happened to it. It was one of the pioneers of the oscillating turret. That is where when the turret splits in two halves and the top half rotates up and down when the bottom half stays stable, as opposed to having the gun elevate and lower separately from the turret. I do think this will be a wonderful rank 2 scout vehicle, especially because it would be honestly quite hard to pen, given that, as you can see in the images, the vehicle was quite angled. It does obviously have some weak spots, but it was a very different design, especially for the time, and is basically the forefather, as you can see, of the EBR. Now that's all for this video, folks. I hope you enjoyed. I know this one will be a little bit rougher around the edges. I'm still trying to kind of find my pace with these scripted videos, so if you guys have any suggestions on how I can improve these, let me know in the comments below. I'd love to hear your feedback. And yeah, I'd also love to hear what vehicles you guys would like to see introduced, or if you guys would like me to do a deep dive on any specific tank that you guys would like added to War Thunder in the comments below. Have a good one.